the Bills is they're just a fascinating team that everybody thinks that you can get them now based on last year's result and this offseason being dismantled in a way from the names that have been associated with the team for quite some time not being there anymore. So what's your sense of the Bills entering this game? They'd love to just come in and steal another one and be 2-0 and have a leg up on Miami so quick.
So one of the most meaningful stats from week one was that Josh Allen threw to 10 different guys and had completions to 9 different guys on Sunday against Arizona. They got punched in the mouth right away, and sort of the same way Miami did against Jacksonville, right? And they were forced to respond. And this is a very different team. Like you said, I mean, like the amount of leadership that's gone. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, Stephon Diggs, Mitch Morse. I mean, guys who are captains, guys who are there forever, guys who are like foundation pieces for the build of Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott all those years ago. And really that's left Josh Allen in position to become more of a leader. And I think one of the cool things about Josh, Rich, is like he's such a self-aware guy that he didn't want to overstep his bounds, even as the quarterback, as a leader before it was time. And he had a really good sense, I think, that this offseason, it was time for him to step forward and be the guy. And I've heard so many stories. He brought a bunch of the skill guys down to Nashville to get work in. He's keeping guys before practice and after practice. You know, he does one-on-one time with guys. He'll keep 3 guys after practice. And, you know, I think he's really embraced now being the guy, you know, whereas like before this, he was one of the guys. Now he is the guy. And it's cool to hear how he's embraced that. The team's going to have some growing pains. There's no question about that. You don't lose that amount of leadership without having to go through some growing pains. And they're going to be relying on some rookies. You know, Cole Bishop, when he comes back from his injury, is expected to be a big part of the defense. We saw Keon Coleman flash a little bit, you know, in the opener against Arizona. So there are going to be some bumps. But I think one of the most meaningful stats for all those reasons that I just laid out was how many guys that Josh Allen threw to on Sunday. Because as good a player as Stephon Diggs was, there's still that element of looking over there. And, you know, if I haven't thrown to him in 3 or 4 attempts, I got to get the ball over to him, right? You know, Josh Allen's playing a little bit differently now. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not that continues to manifest, because I certainly think you saw a guy who's playing a little bit differently now with changing circumstances in week one.
Yeah, so the idea that the Bills will be easier to guard, defend, cover because Diggs is gone, that might just be actually flipped on its head in the fact that you could just spread it out to a whole bunch of other people, right? You know what the best example is? There came a point, like, and again, I hate to bring it back to New England, but I will. In 2010, you remember how shocking the Moss trade was, right? Well, you know, like part of that was Moss was playing for a contract, and that whole thing about like having to look over there every so often and make sure that he was happy and make sure he's getting the ball. Like the Patriots felt like that was starting to affect their offense. So they trade Randy Moss, they trade for Deion Branch, and everybody was like, how is this going to work without Randy Moss there? He'd been so great for them for the 3 years previous. Brady wound up winning the MVP. And they legitimately become more difficult to defend. Now, in Tom Brady, we're talking about a guy who processes football at a higher level than maybe anybody ever has, right? Mm-hmm. He, Peyton Manning, a few guys in that category. So, like, his ability to use the whole field was at a higher level than almost anybody who's ever played this sport. But that dynamic could exist with Allen too. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see if it does, because we have seen that work this sort of way in the past, where a quarterback can become more difficult to defend if all 5 skill players are available or are alive and on every play. And with Diggs out of the equation, I think that becomes a little bit more the case with Buffalo. Albert Breer here from South Florida. Again, Thursday Night Football Prime Video kicking off Week 2, Bills and Dolphins. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.